December 16, 2015, a Wednesday afternoon in Southeast Portland. Kyle Polk stands outside a plaid pantry convenience store at 112th and Division. 21 years old, Kyle wants to be a history professor. Just finished high school. Big dreams ahead. He's waiting for a friend. Just hanging out. Nothing special. Just another day. He doesn't know a white SUV is pulling up behind him. Inside that SUV, Ronald Clayton Rhodes, Big Fly, sits in the driver's seat. Next to him, Javier Hernandez, 19 years old, been in the Hoover Gang for exactly 1 week. Rhodes hands him a gun. The order is simple: shoot. Hernandez steps out. 5 shots, 9mm, fired in succession. Same weapon. Kyle Polk takes a bullet to the chest, dead before help arrives. As they drive away, Hernandez says he feels like they're up on the score. 7 days in the gang, 1 murder committed. That's how fast it happens. The surveillance cameras are still recording. Shell casings lie on the pavement. A witness stands frozen, watching. In that moment, Rhodes and Hernandez don't realize they've just created something more dangerous than a murder charge. Evidence, federal evidence, the kind that builds RICO cases, the kind that buries entire organizations. Rhodes thought he was protecting his organization, teaching a young soldier, maintaining respect, putting in work. He was actually constructing his own cage. This is the story of Big Fly, the enforcer who destroyed his own brothers, the mentor who created monsters, the leader whose violence became the evidence that destroyed everything he tried to build. 7 years later, Kyle's parents would sit in a federal courtroom for 7 weeks straight, watching justice slowly catch up to their son's killer. The streets don't remember enforcers, they just wait for the next one. Portland isn't Los Angeles, it's not Chicago, but by the early 80s, the Hoover Criminal Gang saw something here: opportunity. An untapped drug market 1,200 miles north of their birthplace in South Central LA. They called themselves the Hoovers, named after a street, born in the late 60s when Crips and Bloods were carving up Los Angeles. But the Hoovers were different. They didn't align with either side. They made enemies of everyone, everybody killers. That's what they called themselves. EK for short. It meant exactly what it sounds like. Blood sets, enemies, Crip sets, enemies, the Hoovers against the world. When they arrived in Portland in the early 80s, they brought that philosophy with them. The structure was simple, hierarchical, but loose. Age and violence determined your rank. The more work you put in, the higher you climbed. And work meant one thing: violence, shootings, beatings, robberies, fear. To maintain your position, you had to prove yourself constantly. To increase your status, you had to be willing to do what others wouldn't. That's the world Ronald Clayton Rhodes was born into. Shuffled through foster homes as a kid, eventually adopted, but the damage was done. The instability, the lack of family structure, the system that's supposed to protect children had already failed him. In 2005, Rhodes found what so many foster kids find: a gang that offered the family structure he never had. He joined the Hoovers, earned his street name fast, Big Fly. He distinguished himself through loyalty and violence. But here's the mathematics of gang life that nobody tells you. Rhodes spent 10 of his 11 years with the Hoovers in prison, 10 out of 11, and during those brief moments of freedom, 1 murder, 1 attempted murder, 1 home invasion robbery, drug dealing. That's what freedom looked like for Big Fly. But Rhodes wasn't just another soldier. He built something within the organization. The Fly family, a subgroup. He picked the names for his recruits: Stony Fly Coon, other variations of Fly, young members who looked up to him, Lil Flies who would commit violence to prove themselves worthy of the name. Rhodes was a mentor, a leader, an original gangster in the making. The business model was efficient. Rhodes and his partners moved drugs daily. $3,500 on a typical day. split down the middle, $17.50 each, cash, tax-free. That's over $600,000 a year if you never take a day off. $600,000 bought drugs, guns, influence, but it didn't buy what Rhodes really wanted. Fear, respect, status, those you had to earn with blood. The gang had a code, rules enforced through violence. Putting in work, that meant committing crimes that elevated the gang's reputation. Shootings, robberies, anything that spread fear. And Rhodes taught a specific philosophy to his young recruits. Always be the aggressor, never be on the defense. Think about that. Never defensive, always attacking, always initiating. That's not self-preservation. That's predatory behavior encoded as survival strategy. Another member would later testify about the deeper code. You got a gun, you're supposed to use it. Hoover members were expected to initiate shootings of rivals, whether or not they were actually in danger. The violence wasn't reactive, it was proactive, constant, calculated. The goal, one member described it perfectly: to stay on top, the most violent, the most aggressive, the most feared. Another said it differently, but meant the same thing: to be feared, respected by everyone. They posted about it on social media, Instagram, Facebook, photos and videos designed to antagonize rivals. One post read simply, "We run in the city, y'all." That's the world Big Fly helped build, a criminal enterprise where violence wasn't a last resort. It was the business model, where mentoring meant teaching teenagers to kill, where family meant being willing to die or kill for people you've known for a week. And Rhodes was good at it, really good. He created soldiers, loyal ones, young men who would do anything he asked because he gave them what the world hadn't: identity, purpose, family. By 2015, Big Fly had become exactly what the gang needed: an enforcer, a teacher, a leader who understood that in the world of everybody killers, the only way to survive was to make sure everyone else was more afraid of you than you were of them. Effective enforcers make visible targets. Loyal soldiers make vulnerable witnesses. Documented violence makes prosecutable evidence. Rhodes had created the perfect RICO case. He just didn't know he was the defendant. December 12, 2015, 4 days before Kyle Polk dies, a Portland Hoover founder gets shot downtown. The Hoovers believe they know who did it. Rhodes and his crew start hunting. What happens next will give the FBI everything they need. December 12, 2015, downtown Portland. Leonard Ray Brightman Jr., one of the Portland Hoover founders, gets shot. The Hoovers believe the Rolling 60 Crips are responsible. In gang logic, this demands a response. Blood for blood. You can't let disrespect go unanswered. If you do, you look weak, and weakness in this world gets you killed. Rhodes and his crew start hunting. 4 days later, December 16th, Wednesday afternoon, Rhodes and Javier Hernandez stop by their drug source's apartment in Southeast Portland. Rhodes has Hernandez test the cocaine, quality control. Just another day in the business. Then a call comes in. A fellow Hoover is at a Plaid Pantry on 112th and Division. He spotted 2 guys outside. They might be rivals. Problem is, he doesn't have a gun. He needs backup. Rhodes sees an opportunity. Hernandez has been in the gang exactly 1 week, 7 days. Time for the new recruit to prove himself. Time to put in work. Time to earn his place in the Fly family. Rhodes had even picked his gang name. Stony Fly Coon made him part of the Fly family. Now it was time to see if he deserved it. Around 2:30 p.m., Rhodes drives a rented white SUV to the location. Hernandez rides passenger. Outside the Plaid Pantry, Kyle Polk and his friend Javoni are waiting. They're supposed to meet someone, smoke marijuana. That's it. 2 young men killing time on a Wednesday afternoon. Kyle Polk is 21, just finished high school. He wants to be a history professor. His mother will later say he was like a light, that he lit up every room he walked into, that he made everyone feel special. The old lady at church, the young kids on the street, he had that gift. He doesn't see the white SUV pulling up. Rhodes pulls up behind them, hands Hernandez the gun. The order is simple: shoot. Rhodes leans out, asks the question, "Where you from?" "Gang code?" "What set do you claim? What colors do you fly?" Neither Kyle nor Giovanni claim anything. They're not rolling 60s. They're not gang members at all. They're just two kids waiting for a friend. But in that moment, it doesn't matter. Perception equals reality. Suspicion equals guilt. 5 shots, 9mm, fired in succession from the same weapon. Kyle Polk takes a single bullet to the chest. He collapses at the store's front door, dead before help arrives. 21 years old, his dreams of teaching history die with him on the pavement outside a convenience store. Giovanni survives, watches his friend die, unable to do anything but remember, unable to do anything but carry that image for the rest of his life. As Rhodes drives away, Hernandez speaks, says he feels like they're up on a score. 1 week in the gang, 1 murder committed that fast. 7 years later, Hernandez would sit in a federal courtroom and testify about that moment. He took a plea deal, avoided a life sentence, and when he explained why he did it, he quoted the lesson Rhodes had taught him. Always be the aggressor, never be on the defense. The surveillance cameras at the Plaid Pantry captured everything. 2 separate videos, the white SUV, the shooting, the getaway, every second documented, every second that would later be played for a jury. Kyle's parents, Ruben and Catherine, would sit in the front row of that courtroom for 7 weeks straight, watching the evidence, hearing the testimony, seeing their son's death described in clinical, legal terms. But Kyle's murder wasn't the worst of it. May 22, 2017, 4:30 in the morning, Gresham. Most of Portland is asleep. 3 Hoover Gang members, Rashad Banks, Christopher Jordan, Nakiem Brown, are wide awake. They're hunting. Target, Irvan Ronald Herring Jr., rival gang member, lives at an apartment complex on Northeast 183rd Avenue. They don't knock, they don't announce themselves, they force their way in and start firing. In the bedroom, Herring's girlfriend, Sherry Thompson, is in bed with her 9-year-old son, Lamar, and a 2-year-old girl. They're asleep, they never had a chance. The shooters open fire into the bedroom, multiple guns, multiple calibers, 9mm and 40 caliber rounds. Shell casings would later be found scattered inside the room. When the gunfire stops, Sherry Thompson has been shot 3 times. Her son Lamar, 9 years old, has been shot multiple times. The 2-year-old somehow escapes injury, and the target, Irvan Herring, he escapes completely unharmed. At trial, the prosecutor wouldn't mince words. They were not injured, they were not hurt, they were shot and they were maimed. Another prosecutor described what happened simply. They were hunting. Sherry and Lamar survived, but survival isn't the same as recovery. The physical scars are permanent, the psychological trauma even more so. A 9-year-old boy who lived through being shot 9 times doesn't just bounce back. Neither does his mother. Rhodes wasn't one of the shooters that morning, but this was the organization he helped build. These were the soldiers he helped train. This was the culture of violence he perpetuated. This was what everybody killers meant in practice. Children shot in their beds, mothers maimed, families destroyed, and it wasn't stopping. The violence had been going on for 30 years. Rhodes' co-defendant, Lorenzo Laron Jones, had his own body count. Jones was older, 50 at sentencing, a self-proclaimed shot caller who'd risen through every rank, baby gangster to original gangster. After getting released from prison in 2016, Jones told people he was the king of Portland, that he was focused on reestablishing his credibility on the streets. July 19, 1998, Jones murdered Asensio Genchi Garcia at the El Moro Apartments. The killing followed a fight between Latino men and black men over drug dealing territory. September 17, 2017, Jones murdered Wilbert Butler in Southeast Portland. Butler's twin brother had been killed 9 years earlier. That 2008 killing had created an alliance between the Hoovers and another gang. 9 years later, Jones killed the surviving twin. 8 shootings, 2 murders, 6 attempted murders, stolen guns, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine distribution, 30 years of violence. Together, Rhodes and Jones represented 60 years of combined terror. The trial would cover 3 murders, 12 attempted murders, 6 armed robberies. Robberies where clerks were pistol whipped. Where one clerk was forced to the ground in front of his young daughter during an armed robbery. This wasn't random violence. This was systematic, calculated, a business model built on fear and maintained through blood. And every crime, every shooting, every murder was being documented, photographed, recorded, witnessed. The FBI was building something, brick by brick, crime by crime, witness by witness, a case that would end it all. While Rhodes was teaching Hernandez to be the aggressor, the FBI was watching. Multi-year investigation, federal agents, Portland Police, Multnomah County Sheriff, Homeland Security. They weren't just solving murders, they were mapping an enterprise. RICO, Racketeer, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, the nuclear option for federal prosecution. You don't need to prove someone pulled the trigger. You just need to prove they were part of an organization that did. The Hoover structure made it easy. Hierarchy based on age and violence, tax collection from drug dealers, enforcement through beatings and murder. It was organized crime hiding behind street gang aesthetics. The FBI cultivated witnesses. Some flipped after getting arrested on lesser charges. Others were motivated by fear. Fear of Rhodes, fear of retaliation, fear of spending life in prison. Some were jailmates who'd heard Rhodes and Jones brag about their work. The federal government paid at least 3 cooperating witnesses and their families thousands of dollars to relocate, get them somewhere safe, somewhere they could testify without worrying about retaliation. Wiretaps were approved, legal, procedural, every box checked. The agents watched Rhodes like scientists studying a predator, documented his patterns, mapped his network, traced the money. November 7, 2019, a federal grand jury returns a 13-count superseding indictment. Ronald Clayton Rhodes, 34 years old. Lorenzo Laron Jones, 46 years old. Javier Fernando Hernandez, 23 years old. Charges: racketeering conspiracy, murder in aid of racketeering, using and carrying a firearm during a crime of violence, causing death through use of a firearm. Penalty: death or mandatory life in federal prison. September 2022, U.S. District Court in downtown Portland. Oregon's first federal racketeering trial against street-level gang members. 7 weeks. That's how long it would take. And sitting in the front row every single day, Reuben and Catherine Polk, Kyle's parents, watching justice move at the speed of bureaucracy. The prosecution's case was straightforward. Assistant U.S. Attorney Leah Bolstad described Rhodes and Jones as ruthless killers and money-flashing drug dealers who worked to make the Hoovers the most violent gang in Portland. The defense countered with a different narrative. Rhodes' attorney, Bert Dupree, argued the Hoovers were a loose-knit group of young black men from broken families seeking support and camaraderie, that they carried guns for protection, that any crimes were personal vendettas, not gang business. Many young black men have identified as members of a gang, but mere membership does not establish they entered a racketeering conspiracy. The defense pointed out Rhodes had been shuffled through foster homes before adoption. Systemic failures. A child let down by the system designed to protect him. But then the evidence started. 120 witnesses, 250 exhibits, photos from Instagram and Facebook, surveillance videos, ballistic evidence, DNA, 3 murders, 12 attempted murders, 6 armed robberies, 30 years of documented violence. Javier Hernandez testified, 26 years old now, gave a blow-by-blow account of the Polk murder, how Rhodes handed him the gun, how he pulled the trigger, how he felt like they were up on the score. Dupree Sims testified, 33, street name Big Freak, joined the Hoovers at 14, explained the gang code, the violence requirements, the hierarchy. The defense attacked the witnesses, said the FBI didn't record initial conversations, that the government paid witnesses thousands to relocate, that some statements contained outright lies, that accounts changed over time, but the evidence was overwhelming. October 19, 2022, the verdict: guilty, racketeering conspiracy, murder in aid of racketeering, using and carrying a firearm during a crime of violence. Rhodes, convicted of participating in Kyle Polk's murder. Jones, convicted of murdering Wilbert Butler, multiple attempted murders, illegal firearm possession, drug distribution. The prosecutor spoke to the press afterward, called it an important milestone in combating gun violence, said it sent a clear message about pursuing violent offenders. But sitting in the front row, Reuben and Catherine Polk knew the truth. No verdict brings back a son. No sentence restores a life. Justice doesn't heal, it just closes the wound. October 26, 2023, Federal Courthouse, downtown Portland. Lorenzo Laren Jones stands before Judge Michael J. McShane, 50 years old, self-proclaimed king of Portland, shot caller, original gangster. The sentence: life in federal prison, plus 10 years, plus 5 years, supervised release. There is no parole in the federal system. Life means life. The next day, October 27th, Rhodes gets the same, 38 years old, already spent 10 of his 11 years with the gang behind bars. Now he'll spend the rest of his life there. The FBI's special agent Kieran Ramsey said it plainly. Jones was not only a leader of a violent street gang, he was recruiting and grooming kids on the streets of Portland to carry out violent acts. He's been referred to as a shot caller, but he's actually a violent criminal who used guns and drugs to wreak havoc on our shared community. U.S. Attorney Natalie White called the Hoovers a notorious violent criminal organization, said the prosecution was a milestone in combating gun violence. Portland Police Chief Bob Day said the sentence sends a message that organizations engaging in criminal violence will be held accountable. But here's what they don't say in the press conferences. The Hoover Criminal Gang didn't disappear. Several members face pending federal charges. Others have already been convicted and sentenced. The investigation continues. New leaders are emerging. The territory is still claimed. The violence continues. Rhodes sits in a cell somewhere in the federal system, and the gang he killed to protect moves forward without him. Because organizations don't die when you remove the enforcers. They just promote new ones. Think about what Rhodes believed he was doing. When he handed Hernandez that gun and told him to shoot Kyle Polk, he thought he was teaching, maintaining reputation, putting in work, being a good soldier, a loyal brother. He was following his own rules. Strike first, dominate, never hesitate. But what he actually did was create a federal witness, generate surveillance footage, produce evidence, build a RICO case brick by brick. The violence that was supposed to protect the gang became the weapon that destroyed his freedom. Kyle Polk wanted to be a history professor, 21 years old with his whole future ahead. He died outside a convenience store waiting for a friend. Lamar Thompson was 9 years old when he was shot 9 times in his own bed. His mother, Cherie, was shot 3 times. They survived but carried the scars forever. Physical, psychological, permanent. Wilbert Butler was murdered by Jones in 2017. His twin brother had been killed 9 years earlier. 2 brothers, both dead, both victims of the same endless cycle of retaliation. The trial covered 12 attempted murders, 6 armed robberies, 30 years of terror spread across Portland's poorest neighborhoods. Families forced to live in fear, children developing PTSD before they learn to read, mothers with anxiety disorders from constant vigilance. And right now, somewhere in Portland, there's a kid making the same calculation Rhodes made. Foster care, no father, mother struggling, older brother knows people. The gang offers family, identity, money, respect, protection. The streets teach the same lessons. Violence equals status, fear equals respect. Strike first, never react. That kid doesn't know Rhodes' name, doesn't know about Kyle Polk, doesn't know about federal RICO cases or mandatory life sentences. He just knows the world offers him nothing and the gang offers him something. So he'll join and he'll put in work and he'll hurt people. And in 20 years, someone will make a documentary about him too. Everyone knows how gang life ends: prison, death, or irrelevance. Rhodes knew, Hernandez knew, Sims knew, they all knew. But when you're born into certain neighborhoods, when your options narrow to various types of suffering, sometimes the suffering that comes with power seems better than the suffering that comes with invisibility. Rhodes chose to be feared rather than forgotten, to deliver violence rather than receive it. And it worked. For a while, he rose through the ranks, built the Fly family, mentored soldiers, commanded respect, but the power was borrowed, temporary. The streets don't remember enforcers. They just wait for the next one. Kyle Polk's mother said her son was a light, that he made people feel special. Rhodes spent his life trying to be feared. One is remembered with love. The other will die alone in federal prison, forgotten by the organization he gave everything to protect. The Hoovers have been in Portland for 40 years. The trial covered 30 years of crimes, 120 witnesses, 250 exhibits, 7 weeks in court, life sentences for the leaders, and the gang still operates. Big Fly built an empire in his mind. What he actually built was a cage, and he'll die inside it. The cycle continues, unbroken.